Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am doing the ratings and reviews tag. This is an original by Scott Nell from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. I will link theirs below, and I will also link below Courtney Fairder's version, as she's the one who tagged me to do this. So we're going to get right into it. The first question is to tag folks, so I am going to tag Margaret Pernard and Jen the Librarian. And also there's a question I know in here about booktubers whose reviews you enjoy. And so if I mention you in that, also consider yourself tagged as well. So question 2 is, how do you know you've just finished a good book? Is it a thinking or a feeling response? So I think it is both, but I don't think at the same time for me. I think once I finish a book, it is a feeling more than anything. That's the initial response to just knowing that it was a good book. But then later comes the more thinking aspect where I try to dissect, why did I enjoy this so much? What was it about it that made it good? Not to say that some of the thinking doesn't happen while I'm reading, because obviously while I'm reading a book, I'm also thinking about what is it that is making me enjoy this or not enjoy it. But at the very, very end, finishing those final few words, it's a feeling, and then I kind of backtrack and put together all of the thoughts that I had while reading it, or new thoughts that have developed after I finish the book. Maybe that's a cop-out answer, I don't know. Question 3, when do you begin to form your review/rating? What is the first question you ask yourself? For rating, I don't ask myself that many questions, honestly. I use ratings as my own enjoyment. So again, that goes back to more of a feeling or almost like a gut instinct as to where I place it. Because again, ratings are my own subjective criteria. Or not even criteria, my own subjective feeling really about a book. When it comes to reviewing, then I ask myself more questions, because it's not just about my own enjoyment, but I'm having a conversation, a little bit of a one-sided conversation, but I'm having a conversation with you who's watching. It becomes less about my initial reaction or like gut feeling about a book, and more about communicating why I thought that book was good, or what I thought it did well or not so well. So I think the first question I ask myself when I begin a review is, what are the key things I need to mention about this book? Because depending on like the genre or any number of things, you're going to focus more on one thing versus the other. If I'm reviewing something that's literary fiction versus something that is a children's book versus something that is like a cozy mystery, I'm not going to be reviewing them all in the exact same way. So my first question when it comes to reviewing is, what are the things I need to mention about this book to give someone the most pertinent information, I guess, is how I go about that. Question 4 is, do you do star ratings? Why? Why not? Yes, I do. The why, I don't really have that great of an answer. Like, I joined Goodreads back in, I think it was 2011, and it was just more a way to track how, like, which books I was reading and what I thought of them at the time. So it was my own, like, personal reading journal in a way. And why have I continued? As someone who really enjoys, this is my science background showing through, who's someone who really enjoys data and quantifying things, I like the fact that I can go into Goodreads and sort things by star rating. It's a way to like organize and sort the data. What are the books that I've enjoyed the most, the least? I like having the star rating there in order to organize those data more easily. So because I answered yes to star ratings, there are some follow-up questions. The first is, explain your star rating system. What does a good book get in your rating system? So let's start with 3. So 3 is like the average. It's not a horrible book. It's not an exceptional book. It is somewhere in the middle. And I guess threes are a little bit of an oddball the way I do it, because it could be that it was a book that I don't necessarily think was that good, but it had some features that kind of like elevated it to a three. Like maybe the writing wasn't very good, or it had things that weren't very good in it, but it was like super entertaining or something. And I don't feel like I can put it in like the lower ratings. But a three could also mean that it could have been really great, but there were things that detracted from that. My 2 stars basically means I didn't like it, but I can see the value. I can see what it was trying to do, or there were redeeming things about that book. Maybe it was beautifully written, but everything else I thought fell apart. Something like that. There are 2 ways I think I would give out a 1 star if I just like hated the book for whatever reason. It was offensive, whatever, it doesn't matter. Again, these ratings are subjective, but I would give out a 1 star if I like actively hated the book, or if I don't think it had any redeeming qualities at all. It was just pure drivel, essentially. For 4 and a 5 star, I think both of those books are like really good. The only real difference, I think for me, is a 5 star is something that was just so exceptional that I know it's going to be a longtime favorite. And typically a 5 star is a book that is going to sit with me, that I'm going to reflect on, think back on for like weeks, months. And there have been times where I've rated something a 4, and then it's just like permeated my brain and stuck with me. And then I've had to go back and say, you know what? It might have had its faults, but this book has staying power. And so I'll go back and change it to a 5, because a 5 to me is not about being flawless. I give out 5 stars to things that I know have flaws, but if they were exceptional in some way or they have stuck with me, then they're a 5. The follow-up to that is your star rating consistent, i.e. are all your 5-star books better than all your 4-star books? I don't know that they are. Like I just mentioned, sometimes I go back and I change them. If you follow me on Goodreads, like take my ratings with a grain of salt. Next question is number 5. Do you believe every book has its perfect reader? Does this contradict the idea that a book can be bad? I do think every book, there's got to be someone out there who would enjoy it. I don't think that contradicts the idea that a book can be bad. I think you can enjoy bad things. One of my favorite pastimes is watching bad movies. There is something deeply fun, I guess, about watching a movie just fail in front of your eyes. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing something similar in terms of literature. I think you can read a book that you can tell that it is bad. It's poorly constructed, the characters are flat. But maybe there's some sort of entertainment quality in there. So I don't think those things contradict one another. You can know objectively, I think, as much as you can know things objectively about a book. I know it's a whole other conversation. But I think objectively you can think, I know this book is bad, but I am enjoying it anyway. And I think that's fine. Question number 6 is, what book that you hated have you recommended? I have never recommended a book that I've hated, like actively hated, because books that I really hate, I think, are either incredibly boring, where I don't know that there's a reader out there for them, or more often than not that they were like kind of offensive in some way. Question 7 is, what makes a book good, bad, or great by your evaluation? So I think a bad book is just, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So say a thriller that's not thrilling, or a comedy book that's not funny, or a horror book that isn't scary or creepy or unsettling in some way. That's a bad book. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. And there are other things I think that can make a book bad. Poor writing, like poor structure, I think that can make a book bad. Offensive material, like that's all bad. And anything that that doesn't do that, anything that does what it's supposed to do, is thrilling or is scary or whatever, depending on the genre you're reading, has good characters, all those things make a good book. Good writing, good structure make a good book. Whether that goes from good to great is probably a matter of your own personal taste or how you evaluate things. Like I said, for me, something that's great is something that is going to stick with me long term, that I'm going to keep thinking about and going back to. Question 8. When evaluating the quality of a book, do you have specific criteria or aspects of the book, such as character development, that you consider? Does this change if you were writing an in-depth review versus just thinking about the book for your enjoyment? So if I'm thinking about the book for my enjoyment, I think that goes back to that gut feeling I was talking about. I know whether I enjoyed it. I don't really have to have criteria for that. When I'm reviewing something, I don't have a set list when I'm talking about a book, a set list of criteria that I talk about for every single book, because I am someone who reads a variety of different types of books, and I don't think I would have the same criteria for a horror novel that I would have for a romance novel, that I would have for literary fiction, that I would have for etc., etc. And yeah, I don't go in with a checklist. I more so let the things that stuck out to me dictate how I talk about it. So I'm not going to come at every book in the same way, if that makes sense. Hopefully it did. Question number 9, do you consider star ratings or average ratings when choosing books to read / add to your TBR? No, for the most part. So I would never add something to my TBR purely because I saw that it had like a 4 point something on Goodreads, for example, or take something off of my TBR that had a really low rating. I have a couple books on my TBR that have really low ratings, but I'm interested in reading them. But if I see some people that I'm friends with or who I follow on Goodreads have given it a star rating, I'll check those out. And depending on if my book tastes align with those people, I'll know if it's a yes or a no. But it normally isn't even like a yes or a no to like add or take away from my TBR. Mostly looking at that will either bump it up or down my TBR. That's probably how it actually works for me. Question 10 is, who on BookTube does reliable and interesting reviews of books that you know you can use to decide if a book is for you or not? What makes their reviews so good? If I follow you, I probably enjoy your reviews. There are some people I follow more for like their relaxing reading vlogs or for like entertainment factor, but I think it's fair to say that if I follow you, I probably enjoy your reviews. So off the top of my head, some people that I think like I consistently go to their reviews. Jen from Remembered Reads. What makes her reviews good is that she's very critical. I don't mean critical as in judgmental or harsh, but I mean she thinks critically, and so I feel her reviews are very in-depth. I feel she covers a lot of the qualities or the features of the book, so I feel like after I've watched a review by her, I get a real sense of what that book is. A couple, I guess, whose reviews I enjoy for partly the same reason, but I think maybe more on the end of like our book tastes align, and so I can kind of trust their subjective opinion on if a book was good or not, are Courtney Farrader and Mercedes. Mercy's Bookish Musings, I think that's her channel name. But Courtney, whenever she talks about like a TBR, I'm always like, oh yeah, that sounds good, that sounds good, that sounds good. And books that I know we've both read, with few exceptions, I think we normally give like similar star ratings. We've done a couple of buddy reads together and felt very similarly, so I feel like we have similar tastes. Mercedes has the same taste in terms of writing style to me, not necessarily like plot, but I know we enjoy the same type of like language. Another couple of people who I enjoy their reviews because I think they are thorough about the book and they really discuss it in depth, but also I feel like their like feelings and emotions come out more, are Rick McDonnell and Laurel Ann from Insert Book Pun Here. So both of them, I think, really cover the book. I feel like I get a sense of what that book is, but also I can get a sense of their feelings about the book. If they're really excited about a book, that really comes forward, and it kind of like makes me excited to read it. Laurel Ann hasn't been posting for the last year, but I don't know if she's still watching BookTube. Maybe this will spur her to do videos again. But yeah, I like the kind of mixture of like strong emotion and like thorough review. And the last question, number 11, is, do those booktubers use different language than you to evaluate and review the quality, the overall quality of a book? I think all of those booktubers are different in a lot of ways, but I think the common thread is the thoroughness of the review. And I don't think I'm the best evaluator of my own content, honestly, but I feel like that's what I try to do when I talk about a book. I try to mention as many things as I can, and whether those things were executed well or not, in my opinion. I don't know that we all use the same language. This question I'm not that sure of, because I don't script anything and I just kind of speak from the heart what I felt about a book. So I guess I'm not really sure how I come across in talking about books. Maybe you can tell me your impressions of how I review books. Anyway, that is the end of the tag. As always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.